With all this uncertainty regarding Kawhi, should they want him to return?
No. They should want Kawhi gone because Kawhi, it seems, or the people around him, his uncle, whoever it is, doesn't want to be there is what it seems. The relationship seems fractured to me, Stephen A. And I don't mean that because Kawhi thinks he's hurt maybe and they don't. Because I'll side with the player on that. The player knows his body better than anybody else. And Kawhi is smart and strong to not succumb to peer pressure and professional pressure. Ginobili, Parker, not to mention his head coach and GM of the team or team president in Popovich saying, I don't care how much pressure there is you're putting on me, I'm not right yet. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the fact that I see Popovich having to send messages to Kawhi through the media. You know, when he says things like, hey, if he's not back by a certain point, he doesn't come back. We need to be able to integrate him into the team and all that stuff. You just can't walk in off the street and start playing, essentially, is what Popovich was saying. This is toward the end of the regular season or the last third of the regular season. What that tells me is Popovich is trying to talk to Kawhi through the media. So, Stephen A., that tells me he doesn't feel like he can just get in touch with Kawhi and talk to him directly. And if he can, maybe the message won't be received. That tells me there's enough of a fractured relationship there that they're better off apart. Now, let me say this. I'm not even going to dwell on the package they could get in return. Because as we know in the NBA, you don't break up a dollar for 4 quarters. We just saw that with the Cavs. They broke up Kyrie into maybe a 50-cent piece and Isaiah Thomas in a couple of quarters. Didn't work. You give up a dollar, you need a dollar back. I'll bet you there is a real special talent you can get for Kawhi, or at least a draft pick package. But more than that, here's why this is significant. We saw what Daryl Morey did with the Rockets. In order to compete really for a championship, you need a special 5-star type player. Problem is, none was available. So what did Daryl Morey do? He identified a guy who could be in James Harden. No one perceived Harden that way at the time. He grabbed him and brought it out of him, too, including with D'Antoni. He was good before D'Antoni, but here's an undervalued asset. We're going to identify it, acquire it, and develop it. Popovich, if Daryl Morey could do that with D'Antoni, Popovich, who's done it time and again late in the draft, including with Kawhi Leonard, can do that better than anyone. So I say goodbye to Kawhi, get what you can, Popovich will rebuild.
Stephen A., can I say one thing real quick, because I took issue with what he said? The fact that he can only communicate with him through the media, it's 2018. He doesn't need to speak to Kawhi through the media. He could find another way to reach him.
I say hold on to Kawhi Leonard. He's big time. You don't find these players every day. We're having discussions when Kawhi Leonard is healthy as him being a top 3 player on the planet. Both ends of the floor, accepting the toughest defensive assignment from open and tap, what he brings to the table. He's not only a champion, but an NBA Finals MVP. We can't ignore the greatness that exists in Kawhi Leonard. What I will say to you is this. When you look at Boston and the assets, when you look at Philadelphia and assets, when you look at the Los Angeles Lakers and potential assets, there's certainly, it gives you cause to pause, and you might need to look at that if you're the San Antonio Spurs. But what I'm saying is the system, the coach, and the player that has already proven he can win in that system with that coach is something you hold on to for dear life and you don't let go of unless you absolutely positively have to. That's what I would do if I were Greg Popovich. Now, if it's this summer, no. Why? Because Kawhi only played 9 games. He's been hurt. There's some questions as to what his value would be because you haven't seen him and you don't know how serious this injury is. You know it's serious enough that he only played in 9 games. You know it's serious enough that, he's been ailing and he refuses to come back. But in the same breath, you still don't know what's it going to be like. You want him to come back and establish his value first. And while he's back and establishing his value and he's on the court for you, that's an opportunity for you to cultivate the relationship and to gauge whether it's best or not to hold on to him, which Popovich is more than qualified to do at that particular moment in time. But what you don't do is react off of what has transpired this season, this summer. Because by doing so, you minimize his value and the return, therefore, on that investment, because Kawhi has been out, and people are going to say, we don't know what he is. We don't know what he could be because we don't know how serious this injury is. He's been out all year long, and they might cut short of giving you what he may be worth.